right. I am just setting up my notes real quick. All right. Hey, everyone. My name is Ian Gillespie. I'm an investigator with Coinbase. Not here representing Coinbase. All opinions are my own. Just a big fan. And thank you for having me at the conference. So I'm going to be talking about how the actual laundering process works and kind of walk you through how North Korea takes stolen digital tokens and turns it into real world assets, including weapons for their ballistic missiles program, nuclear weapons program, fuel, and kind of just sustain their economy in a heavily sanctioned, isolated economic outlook. So going over the quick agenda, we're going to 30,000 foot level over most things, very quick time frame, but kind of go over the rise of DPRK's criminal activity and how they've perfected the art of theft and money laundering, especially in the crypto ecosystem. Kind of go through the steps of their methodical money laundering process using the most recent or not most recent, but recent headline-grabbing Bybit hack as a case study where they got 1.5 billion, and then kind of go over what can and should be done going into the future. So, looking at DPRK's theft activity across the years, you can see kind of ramping up consistently. Starting in 2017, they kind of pivot into crypto. They're still hitting traditional finance institutions at that time, the Cosmos Bank in India, getting into their system, creating a bunch of fake ATM cards, spreading them out across about 20 some odd countries, having mules go and take as much money as the ATM would allow out, and then handing the hard cash over to handlers minus their tiny little fee. And then you had the Bank of Bangladesh hack in 2018, which was their first actually $1 billion hack. They were able to initiate transfers worth around $1 billion out of the bank, but most of them were stopped due to the kind of archaic system that is traditional banking compared to the ease of transfer on in the blockchain world. So many intermediary banks, including the Fed in New York, was able to stop transactions going out. They were able to repatriate about 80 million to accounts in the Philippines, 20 million to account in Sri Lanka, and that involved a complex real-world money laundering process, going to casinos, playing 8 hours a day, which all sounds fun, but all of us here at a virtual conference know that the real world is scary. It sucks. It's much better in the virtual world. So they kind of pivoted to crypto, which provided them easier transfers. Once it's privately held in their own wallets, they're fully in control. They don't have to worry about pesky bank employees looking at suspicious transfers and freezing their funds. It's also extremely target-rich environment. And as you can see on that chart from Elliptic, that as cryptocurrency's popularity increased, so did the attacks, and more and more projects come online in the blockchain space. So they have their pick of the litter of who to target, and cryptocurrency prides itself on being kind of decentralized, pseudo-anonymous. So sometimes you don't know exactly who you're interacting with at all times, which provides them the means and capabilities to kind of inject themselves into projects. So also, this is the most updated graph of the charts. You're going to see different amounts given by different outlets, different blockchain analytics firms attribute different incidents, either solely based on government sources or sometimes just inference based on blockchain intelligence. I think this one's a little low. I use it since it was the most up-to-date one as of October. There's been a few other hacks recently in late October and November that we'll wait and see if they get attributed to DPRK, but they've definitely Oh, sorry, seeing that we might have a little bit of echo issue, but they crossed the 2 billion mark in 2025. So hope everybody in the RGB got a nice pizza party for meeting their OKRs, hitting that milestone. But whenever one of these large scale attacks happen and deaths, we see a slew of headlines that these funds are going to be used to further the nuclear weapons research and their ballistic missile developments with increases in the ICBMs and now truck launched ICBM technology. But they never really go into how that actually takes place. Um, we're just kind of left with headlines saying that oh, they hit such and such exchange, got all these different coins, and now they're going to have big missiles. Nobody really goes into it, mostly because it's a little difficult to explain in depth in a short article, and also it's part of North Korea's traditional money laundering MO. They steal the funds, they convert the funds into a safe asset that they can hold on to in their private wallets, and then they wait sometimes weeks, months, kind of for the heat to die down, or even for another exploit to happen. In 2023, I think they hit 3 large exchanges within a month and a half. So the news dies down, people stop looking at that, they look at the new shiny thing, and then they're able to effectively launder the money. But how do they actually purchase these weapons and these assets? Unfortunately for the DPRK, there are no, even in the scariest darknet markets that the news also likes to cover, there's no listings for ICBMs or highly enriched uranium like this cleverly designed NFT sale that they have yet to bite on for the low price of $170,000. Just 50 ETH. They have a lot of it. It's labeled clearly not a honeypot. I don't know why they haven't bid on it yet, but fingers crossed. One day they'll want some art to commemorate their activities. But so in reality, what they have to do is convert the digital tokens into fiat currency that a trading partner that's willing to deal with a heavily sanctioned state like North Korea takes. So we're going to get into who some of those trading partners are in the real world in a little bit. But all right, so imagine yourself as a lowly recruit. You've performed well on your tests. You've been selected now into the elite trader org within the RGB, and now you're charged with actually claiming funds for the regime. This is a profit-based enterprise. You got to make money to earn your keep. And luckily for you, as we saw in the graph, going back many years, we've had a number of successes, some failures that we've learned through trial and error. So your leader has perfected a 5-point profit plan for once you execute your mission, how to actually transfer those funds effectively and safely and get them back to us to provide all the cool new fireworks that we want to sustain the regime. So going over the profit plan, it's basically the 3-tiered money laundering playbook. So in classic money laundering, you have 3 different segments of it. First, it's placement, where you actually place the illicit funds into the financial system. That is normally the most dangerous part of the operation for the launderers. That's when funds can be flagged, they can be frozen at the banks. But in these DPRK scenarios, the placement is actually the theft. They're removing the funds from the known financial institution into the private wallet that they control on the blockchain. So that's actually the safest part. Once they control it, it's theirs. There's no takes backs. There's no reversing things on the blockchain. So that's the placement layer. And then you get into layering. just a flurry of transactions and different methods of moving the funds to basic. Yes. Okay. Uh, do I need to go back at all? All right. So once you've actually gotten the funds off the platform, now you're in the layering stage. You're going to be wanting to make it much more difficult for anybody investigating or looking to recover those funds. Yeah, I'm sorry. So the first part of that is you're going to be converting all the tokens that you've um, uh, repatriated or stolen, however you want to phrase it. You're going to convert it to the native asset on that blockchain. So we're going to get into the importance of that when we're actually walking through your first theft. But just know on a theory, yes. Yeah, sorry. Oh, sorry. Thought I heard somebody. Um, on Ethereum, you're going to be converting it to ETH. On Tron, you're converting it to TRX. And then once you do that and you have control of all the assets, you're going to create a ton of new wallets. Just like Thomas was saying, wallets are easy to spin up. You can create new addresses with the click of a button. And so what you're going to do is try to flood the zone with new wallets to create as much noise for blockchain investigators as possible and disperse the funds in various quantities to those new wallets that don't have the high publicity of your theft address that everybody knows and has just broadcasted out in all those fancy news reports. Once they're in the new wallets, you're going to bridge them to a different blockchain, further breaking that very obvious linkage to your crime. Um, there's still an on-chain connection to it, but it is more difficult and more labor-intensive for people to follow that trail of it, even though it is possible. And then you're going to, once it's on the new blockchain, send it through mixers. You're going to mix it up, send it into a big pool of money with other users that are looking to obfuscate their source of funds or the destination of those funds. And you're going to withdraw to completely separate addresses that aren't in any way connected on the blockchain to yours. And most importantly, steps 2 through 4, you're going to repeat, rinse and repeat as many times as you see fit, as many times as you deem necessary to kind of get the taint off of those wallets back from the original theft. So, and you can also interchange them. So you can mix from the new wallets, then bridge. You can do whatever you want. Have fun with it. And that's the unspoken part of the 5 point plan is kind of make it your own, experiment a little. And then once you get the funds sufficiently separated from your crime with time and distance, you're going to exchange it for fiat currency, for cash. You're going to use over-the-counter brokers, OTC brokers in friendly jurisdictions, China, Russia, Cambodia, and you're going to give them your stolen crypto, and they are going to provide you via bank accounts, Union Pay cards, with the fiat currency that then you can go and take and integrate into the actual financial system and buy the goods that you want. So let's go into your first theft. You are charged with getting the big B, the $1 billion theft. Is we're doing the Bybit theft, and it was actually pretty unique on for DPRK standards. They have done some supply chain um, exploits in the past, but nothing obviously is this big. It's their biggest theft. They didn't actually attack Bybit itself. They looked one step further. They went to their wallet provider, Safe Wallet in this case, where Bybit has a cold wallet, a wallet that's supposed to be segregated from the internet, that only comes online when they need to internally move funds occasionally. This is the vault within the bank. And the door shall never be opened unless multiple people high up in the organization all agree that it's going to be opened for a certain period of time to do a certain action. So DPRK spearphished a developer at the Safe Wallet entity, fake Java application, I believe, similar story. And they were able to inject malicious JavaScript into the wallet infrastructure itself. I'm coming from the financial crime analysis side of things, so I'm really trying to learn the actual hard security side, which I was really excited to be a part of this conference with all the great speakers. I believe they targeted the S3 AWS bucket, and they were able to input the JavaScript that altered the transaction recipient details. Whereas the Bybit employees are going to see what they view as correct on when they're signing the transaction. They're like, okay, this is going to our other internal wallet. They were looking to move 30,000 ETH, which at the time I believe was $100 million. So not a small chunk of change, but they didn't think they were moving the whole kit and caboodle of the 1.5 billion that they had in the vault. Surreptitiously, the malicious JavaScript removes that receiving wallet and puts a wallet address that is controlled by DPRK in it. This was novel enough and out of DPRK's normal kind of attack tactic of private key compromise through phishing attacks, where they just have the keys to the wallet. They'll move it when they want to where they want. They actually ran a test run 3 days prior to the exploit on the blockchain that you can see. And this is a little diagram of that, where they set up a wallet that was exactly similar to the Bybit storage wallet, and even funded it with minuscule amounts of the same exact tokens that they saw sitting in that wallet, executed it perfectly. They were good to go. 3 days later, on February 21st, they initiate a transaction that overwrites the storage implementation logic within that contract, and then they have it. It looks to the Bybit executives that things are good to go. They hit confirm. The attacker now has control of the wallet. They send a small test transaction of 90 USDT, which is roughly $90. And with the Ethereum blockchain, there's a new block that has all the transactions in that block added about every 10 seconds. So if you look at the lowest rung on that oval of the outgoing flows to the attacker's wallet, that 90 USDT takes place about a minute before the actual exfiltration of the 1.5 billion. And that's the, oh shit, the mission control moment on the moon landing. Everybody's popping champagne. We did it. And now we actually got to do the real theft. Funnily enough, that 90 USDT is still sitting in that wallet. They didn't even bother to move that. And the whole attack took about 2 minutes and 45 seconds. All the funds were gone by 2:16. All right, now you actually got to start the laundering, the real meat and potatoes of what you do as an organization once you've gotten the funds. And this is a huge undertaking. This is a lot of money, and it's almost kind of the dog that caught the car type situation. When you steal $1 billion, it's really, really difficult to successfully launder that. And how the Bybit exploit actually differs from most DPRK exploits is maybe because they needed money, maybe because they knew how much news it would garner. They actually started laundering it right away. They do not do the normal sit and wait period. So they start swapping for that native token immediately. They send the different tokens to two separate wallets. There's METH from Mantle and CMETH also from Mantle, different, and staked ETH. These are different staked versions of Ethereum. So they need to swap that for just regular old Ethereum. The first is able to successfully swap 8,000 METH and 90,000 staked ETH, equaling roughly 260 million. Good to go. Where we run into the issue is on the CMETH. It had a unique thing in the contract protocol where there's an 8-hour delay on withdrawals. So they can't swap it right away. This allowed Mantle, the institution behind the staking protocol, to actually kind of freeze the protocol itself and blacklist that address. They were able to burn those funds and return about 41 million ETH, USD worth of ETH to Bybit. So the next day on February 22nd. So not exactly it is a drop in the bucket compared to what was stolen, but I think Bybit was taking kind of any wins they could get at that moment, and so they were able to reclaim some of that money. So now that you have it all in that native token, what do? Well, you flood the zone. So this is where things get more complicated for blockchain investigators and anybody kind of looking in to the laundering activity. That tiny little red dot at the top, those are the addresses holding the actual Ethereum, and they're going to blast them out in 10,000 ETH tranches to new addresses. So now we got, I believe it was 490,000 or some odd ETH. And so you got 49, 50 odd new addresses that are fully funded with 10,000 ETH, $30 million or something. But they're all sitting there ready to go. And those addresses then repeat the process. They're going to keep flooding the zone with new addresses in small held funds. They want to compartmentalize as much as possible in case anything happens or they lose control. They're not going to lose everything. So these new addresses, the 50 new addresses, then spit out, and that's that purple mess, that spider web underneath. Those are 1,900 new addresses that were spun up within hours of the attack, going through the next couple days. This is an all-day labor-intensive process. This is over 3,500 transactions, and this is the first wave. Those 1,900 addresses then continue the process and repeat it over and over again. Short on time, but at the end of this whole process, over 12,000 addresses were used in the whole laundering process. So this is the beginning of that massive influx in activity and address creation. But once you get them into small chunks, into new addresses that are not closely associated with the theft, you can start to bridge them to that new blockchain, that the next step in the profit plan. In this case, they're sent through a decentralized bridge called Thorchain, and then also some funds were sent through a centralized swapping service, EXCH, that takes custody of the funds, and you provide an address and which token and which blockchain you would like to receive it on. So they used both methods on that, and then once in Bitcoin, the actual conversion to OTC and mixing can begin. So with all that, with the 12,000 addresses, it didn't look good on a slide. So I just put everything down into single node representations to make it a little bit more palatable and a little bit easier to explain. So you have the stolen ETH going across centralized and decentralized swapping services and bridges into Bitcoin. It's actually believed that Hong Kong-based OTC broker might have taken control of some of the Bitcoin at this stage, which is another deviation from the normal DPRK laundering method, where they do the process of bridging and mixing over a long period of time themselves until it gets to the Tron blockchain, and then it gets to the OTC brokers. This OTC broker decided, probably for a larger cut of the funds, that they can handle a portion of the laundering. DPRK realized the vast scale of this endeavor and offloaded that, kind of um, shifting some of the burden of the laundering to a third party, and then was able to focus on mixing the Bitcoin themselves that remained to go to other OTC brokers. They use Wasabi Wallet, which is a privacy-focused wallet that has a coin join implementation that basically breaks up any concrete evidence of sender and receiver of the funds pooling together with multiple users. Then, again, the rinse and repeat. They bridge back over to Ethereum. Some of the funds go through another well-known mixer, Tornado Cash, on the Ethereum blockchain, which famously was also sanctioned because of their involvement in many of the DPRK exploits. And the functionality of mixing for DPRK is different than many other cyber criminals. Mixing on its surface is supposed to completely break linkages and kind of make a dead end for any investigation. DPRK's mixing, because of the sheer value of the tokens that they're dumping in and the volume, it doesn't really do that, because if you look at the volume charts on, say, Tornado, you can see when DPRK dumps in $400 million, and you can also see the outflows of around $400 million. So you can kind of have a little conjecture on who's withdrawing that amount of money. Only somebody that put in that amount of money. There's no direct on-chain evidence, but you can continue to follow the funds with a high degree of confidence on a lot of these exploits. They're not looking for pure obfuscation, pure like getting away with it at this stage. What they're doing is creating that level of doubt and level of deniability that these funds actually stemmed from the exploit. It's still a red flag for a lot of exchanges, a lot of cryptocurrency institutions if funds are coming from a mixer, but it's not as red of a flag to come from a mixer than it is to come from a DPRK controlled wallet. So they're just looking to put a little bit of a lighter shade on how sketchy these funds are. Then from there, with these new Ethereum wallets from Tornado Cash, they bridge again through some smaller blockchains that possibly with the hope that blockchain analytics firms and tracing investigators that are tracing it don't really have good visibility in that blockchain, or they're unfamiliar with it, so it's going to slow their catching up to it. They bridge, and everything eventually ends up on Tron, where it always does, where the TRX, again, or in native currencies over bridges and wallets controlled by DPRK, are the TRX on Tron is swapped for USDT, the stablecoin that is pegged to the US dollar. Cyber criminals like it, scams love it. It's basically just an easy way to keep like things on the blockchain without huge value fluctuations that you see in the market. You want to know what you got. You don't want a huge market crash to wipe out the $1 billion you just stole. So once it's in USDT in smaller batches, that's when you're swapping it to the OTC brokers. The OTC brokers, usually in mainland China, Hong Kong, we're seeing a rise in cooperation with OTC brokers in Russia. Individual just got put on the sanctions list for doing $60 million for this hack, a Russian-based OTC broker. So they're expanding their approach, and that comes on the heels with the broader cooperation expansion with Russia militarily, diplomatically, economically. And these OTC brokers actually act as this is the place that could be the choke point for investigations and possible seizure of funds, because they're sitting in a stable coin that can be frozen, can be reissued to the victim or the seizing jurisdiction, government, U.S., Europol, anybody that's actually putting in the seizure order. And that presents the best opportunity for the funds to be taken back. But what happens is once it gets to the OTC brokers, an agreement is made off chain. So this is where the DPRK trail ends on the blockchain, because the transfer of USDT is met with fiat transfer of a similar amount minus the OTC brokers laundering fee in either Chinese yuan, Russian rubles, in bank accounts controlled by DPRK front companies or nationals in those jurisdictions that act as conduits to then transfer the funds out. So that's quick. Sorry, went over a little time. Here's an actual ad for a peer-to-peer swap. This was one of the theft addresses on a very minimally used Southeast Asian crypto social media site, offering to sell ETH at below market price, which was very nice of him. I don't know if the L in his that is a user like uploaded profile picture. I don't know if that's a nod to the Lazarus group or just something that he had saved. But this was actually posted on April 25th during the laundering process. So they realized how big the scale was. They were reaching out on a lot of different platforms. This was I only found this in a comment in a blog post about the exploit from Slowmist, one of the blockchain analytics firms. It was a beta fish salesman that operated on this platform posted that, hey, they're offering ETH. So OSINT comes from the weirdest places, including beta fish salesmen based in Thailand. So quickly going over what next. Anybody in the crypto industry needs to understand where they fit in the chain. If they're at an exchange, be looking for OTC brokers moving funds onto their platform that may be stemming from one of these exploits. If they're a currency converter or swapping service, are you seeing insanely high volume? Same with bridges. Is there anything you can do to add friction to that? But no matter where you are in the laundering process, you have to know that you are a potential target. You are at the front of the chain in DPRK's eyes. We see this a ton of times. Services that they have used to launder portions of the funds in the past become victims of subsequent exploits. And so to combat this, needs to be no more juche of self-reliance within the community, kind of building out our own threat intel teams and security teams and siloing our own operations. Reliable information sharing networks need to be established and have been established, especially in 2025, that can share indicators of comrades on your platform. As Jack pointed out, the IT worker problem and the hacking problem of large exchanges are not two different things. They're the same coin. They're the same organization. They're the same apparatus. They operate in the same networks. So if you're seeing IT workers on your platform or applying for jobs, take those IPs, take those emails, whatever you have, share it with the community so that other people can be protected and this doesn't keep going forward. Some guy named Mark, oh, sorry, I'm way over time. Mark in reprisals, basically an old piracy law that hasn't been used since the War of 1812, grants permission to engage in acts otherwise deemed as piracy in service of the government. So anybody with that letter, it's a theory that people have brought up. It's actually been introduced into the U.S. Congress recently. We'll see if it gets voted on, but that would allow private cybersecurity companies to maybe get involved in actually compromising and maybe reclaiming some of the funds or getting into the networks and see how this is going. And hopefully trace the next one. There are a ton of tools out there, breadcrumbs, Arkham Intelligence, that are free, that can do the graphing that you saw earlier. So go forth and check out the next exploit. There's a recent one that is over $100 million that may or may not be DPRK, but it's in the staging, about to be in the mixing stages now. So it'd be good practice. And then here's some of the resources for laundering and crypto related activity.